The distress beacon screamed across 17 light-years before Kale received it. His claws punctured the armrest of his command throne, leaving deep gouges in the metal as the message played again. 2 of his pack's cubs, missing for 3 solar cycles, had been traced to a human vessel drifting near the outer rim. Humans. Those Death World survivors who walked through radiation like it was morning mist, who could metabolize poisons that would liquefy Avrexians' organs, who hunted for sport on a planet that actively tried to kill them. The galaxy had learned to give humanity a wide berth, especially after the Treaty of Broken Chains. They were allies now, technically, but trust, that came harder than diamond synthesis. "Prepare the war pack," Kyle growled, his triple-jointed legs carrying his massive frame toward the deployment bay. His silvered fur bristled with barely contained rage. The Vrexians were apex predators on 4 worlds, their territorial instincts honed across millennia. And some human, had taken 2 of their young. The pack assembled within minutes. 20 warriors, each standing 8 feet tall with retractable claws that could shred starship hulls. Their phosphorescent eyes glowed with ancestral fury in the dim red lighting of the bay. They would paint that human vessel with blood and claw marks. They would make an example. The human ship was small, a cargo hauler retrofitted for long-range exploration. It hung in space like wounded prey, one engine dark, hull plating scorched from what looked like a plasma storm encounter. Kale's scanners detected only one life sign, human and something else. 2 smaller signatures that made his breath catch in his throat. The cubs, alive. "Breach protocol," Kyle commanded. "Non-lethal until I assess the situation. But if that human has harmed them, he didn't need to finish." The pack knew. They cut through the airlock with practiced efficiency, their weapons drawn, movements synchronized like the hunting parties of their ancestors. The ship's interior was cramped by Vrexian standards, designed for the smaller human frame. Emergency lights cast everything in amber uncertainty. Kale's sensitive nose picked up the sense immediately. The cubs terrified but unharmed. And the human. Female, by the chemical markers. But something else too. Something that made his predatory instincts pause. No fear scent. No aggression pheromones, just exhaustion. And something sweet he couldn't identify. They found her in the medical bay. The human sat propped against a wall, her dark hair matted with dried blood from a gash on her temple. Her left arm hung at an unnatural angle, broken. Burns marked her flight suit where she'd clearly routed power through failing systems. The medical bay's auto dock hung uselessly overhead, its power cell depleted, and on her chest, curled together in a pile of borrowed blankets and her own jacket, slept Kale's cubs. The tiny Vrexians, barely old enough to have left their den, rose and fell with her breathing. Their small claws were retracted, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with the slow rhythm of deep, peaceful sleep. One of them, Kale recognized his daughter Lyra by her silver-tipped ears, had her face pressed against the human's collarbone, her whiskers twitching with whatever dreams occupied her young mind. The human's good arm rested protectively across them both. Kale raised his hand, halting the pack. 20 weapons stayed trained on the scene, but nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The human's eyes opened slowly. Brown eyes, Kale noted distantly. They were heavy with exhaustion, but they focused on him with surprising clarity. She didn't reach for a weapon, didn't try to use the cubs as hostages. She just looked at him. And somehow, impossibly, she smiled. "You must be Dad," she said, her voice hoarse. "Took you long enough." Kyle's translator struggled with the casual human phrase, but the meaning was clear enough. He took a single step forward, every muscle coiled. "How did my children come to be on your vessel, human?" "Name's Seren," she said, wincing as she shifted slightly. The movement made Lyra mumble something in her sleep, and Seren immediately stilled. "Found them in an escape pod. Your ship was attacked by raiders 3 cycles ago, yeah? Salvagers told me about it at the trade station." Kale's eyes narrowed. The attack had been brutal, a pack of pirates who didn't survive their mistake. But in the chaos, a damaged escape pod had been launched. By the time they'd realized cubs were aboard, the pod's beacon had failed. They were dehydrated, terrified, Seren continued. Pod's life support was failing. I brought them aboard, got them stable. She glanced down at the sleeping forms with something painfully tender in her expression. They wouldn't let me put them down after that. Every time I tried to set them in the med pod, they'd cry. So you held them, Kale said slowly. For 3 cycles. Someone had to. Seren's jaw tightened. Hit that plasma storm 18 hours ago. Lost my docbot keeping the engines running long enough to broadcast the beacon. Your distress, they're genetic markers. I knew someone would come. Just had to keep them safe until then. She'd sacrificed her own medical care for cubs that weren't her species, weren't her pack. Cubs whose adults could, and had intended to, tear her apart. Cale felt something shift in his chest, some ancient recognition that transcended species. He'd seen pack bonding before, but never across such vast biological differences. Humans were supposed to be dangerous, unpredictable, savage in their own way. But this human had done what any parent would do. What any pack member should do. She'd protected the young. At cost to herself. He holstered his weapon. Behind him, 20 warriors did the same. The simultaneous click of safeties engaging sounding like a prayer. My daughter, Cale said quietly, approaching slowly, has been crying in her sleep since the attack. Nightmares. Seren's expression softened. Not tonight. Tonight she dreamed of running through tall grass under a blue sun. I could feel it the way she moved. Our home world, Cale whispered. She's never been there. Genetic memory, maybe, Seren said. Or just hope. Cale knelt before the human, bringing his massive frame down to her level. Up close, he could see how much pain she was in. The tremor in her good arm, the shallow breathing of someone with probably cracked ribs. She'd pushed herself past all reasonable limits, for his children. The pack came for blood, Cale said softly, extending one clawed hand toward her, palm up, non-threatening. We came to paint your ship with vengeance. Yeah, Seren said, eyeing his hand. I figured, but we found something we didn't expect. Kyle's voice roughened with emotion. We found Pack. Seren blinked, and for the first time tears gathered in those brown eyes. I just wanted them to be safe. They are. Because of you. Cale gently, carefully lifted both cubs from Seren's chest. They grumbled in protest but didn't wake. So thoroughly exhausted they trusted even this transfer. He passed them to his second-in-command, then turned back to the human. And now, Seren of Earth, he said, carefully sliding one arm behind her back and another under her legs, lifting her as gently as he'd handle his own cubs. We protect you. She didn't protest, didn't fight. Just leaned her head against his chest and whispered, Thank you. The medical bay of Cale's flagship was state-of-the-art. Within 2 hours, Seren's arm was set, her wounds treated, her exhausted body finally given the rest it desperately needed. Cale sat beside her recovery pod, his cubs reunited with their birth pack but refusing to leave entirely. They kept returning to press against the transparent pod wall where Seren slept. His mate, arriving from their homeworld, took one look at the scene and understood immediately. She's Pack now? She's Pack, Cale confirmed. The cubs have chosen. And when Seren woke days later, fully healed and stronger, she found herself adopted into something she never expected, a family across the stars, bound not by blood but by choice, the human who'd protected cubs that weren't hers, the alpha who'd relented, and the pack that learned what humanity really meant.